All right, I am so lucky today to have author and futurist Bernard Marr to join me. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Joe. I'm really looking forward to spending a bit of time with you.
No, this is going to be fun because there's a lot to cover, a lot to talk about. And I have been informed that you have just finished the book and it's now in press, so you can pick it up wherever you'd like. Generative AI in Practice: 100 plus amazing ways that ways generative artificial intelligence is changing businesses and society. So, can you give us a little bit of background? One, what led you to writing this, and then a little bit about what's in the book itself?
Sure. This is book number 23 for me.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I,
I didn't know
I,
that. Okay.
I write books about future trends. So I've covered things like big data and virtual reality and the future internet. And I look at business trends and technology trends. And I basically help companies understand future trends and how to get ready for them. And I guess generative AI is the big thing at the moment. So I started writing this 2 years ago, just before it started or kicking off, and then I actually paused for a bit, and then I decided to really write this in the shortest time frame I've ever written a book because there's so much happening every single day in this space. There are new announcements, there are massive changes, there are updates to some of the big platforms that use generative AI. And of all the technology trends that I talk about and write about and advise companies about, I believe that generative AI is probably the most powerful technology that humans have ever had access to date. So I believe it will completely transform every single industry. It will transform every single business, and it will transform every single job that people do. And this is why I wanted to write the book. I wanted to make it really practical. There are lots of theoretical books about generative AI there. And what I want to do is actually say, this is how it is being used today, and this is how it will transform different industries. So I talk about what it is, how it's being used, how it will transform industry and business. And then I look at lots of different industries from education to healthcare to retail and so on, and look at actual examples of how organizations are using it today and how it might transform those industries in the future. And hopefully there's something in it for everyone.
That's fantastic. It sounds amazing. So let me dig into that a little bit. When you see industries changing, are there certain industries that will change more than others? And what impact do you see is the biggest in those?
Yeah, so I this is a question I get asked a lot, and pretty much after every keynote I give, and there are clearly some industries that will be transformed, especially industries that were previously protected from AI a little bit, because traditional AI would automate things. They would automate lots of blue collar work. They would help us to automate our factories. Now, with generative AI, we have this ability to have machines that can be creative, or we can discuss whether they're really creative or not, because there are obviously limitations to all of this. But this will have a big impact on people that write, people that take images and photos, people that make films. Because for me, what's really important to understand is that these generative AI tools are not just really good at, sometimes people think they're just chatbots. And they're so much more. They can now create images, they can create video, they can create sounds, they can create synthetic voices. And and suddenly you realize actually it will impact every single industry and every single job. There are some that will be impacted more, especially in the creative industries in the short term. But in the long term, I can honestly not think of any job or any industry that will not have a where it will not have a significant impact on what organizations do. And we can talk about things like healthcare, where it will enable us to do amazing things. Like the other thing that we didn't talk about is that it is also fantastically able to analyze data. So even though they're trained on large language and large image repositories for some reason that people don't really 100% understand is that it's also able to analyze data really well. And so in healthcare, it can help us find new medicine. In education, just think about how it can democratize education because I can now go to ChatGPT or Google Gemini or any of the other tools and type in, hey, teach me how to um, learn programming. And it will, and please create a 3-week course for me in little snippets every day, and I will do that for you. And then companies are now integrating this. So I was one of the companies I talk about in the book. Well, a number of companies are language learning platforms. And so in the past, if you wanted to learn a new language, you had to follow a standard course that had to be developed by someone. Now if, for example, if you are a chemical engineer and you want to learn German to work with a new company that is doing chemical engineering, that is a course that you couldn't find in the past. Now you can go on these platforms and they can generate those dialogues using generative AI that is completely personalized and customized to your needs. So it will transform pretty much everything, I believe.
I mean, you've teed it up perfectly, and I completely agree with you. And I've seen it in action myself. The part that was most shocking when the most recent developments came out were the creative aspects, right? So this idea that we thought that it was going to touch the blue collar jobs first.
Mm,
I went to the first AI film festival. I was a judge in Dubai not long ago, and they asked me to be the technical lead on looking at some of these films. And people would submit from around the world their 2 to 10 minute video, so their short film. And they did this about 9 months ago or so. And by the time we looked to judge these fellow 8 judges, looked at what was produced, and there were 150 countries represented, with the 500 different films. Some of it that were not that great, but others were actually outstanding, were amazing. The development that had changed from the time that we judged it compared to when they actually submitted it, there were so many new tools that were already out that were exponentially better than the previous iterations. Um, Music is fantastic to see. Just the other day, someone sent me a new site that I actually visited, and you do a same old prompt engineering. You choose the type or genre of type of music, so it could be country or hip hop or classical music, and then a few different words. Or if it's a person, maybe someone famous like yourself, you put their name in, and it reaches out and it compiles all the information about them, puts it into a song within 15 seconds. And you'd think that the song would be kind of not so great. But it ended up being, I've done this probably 4 or 5 times, amazing. The composition, the rhyme, the intonation, all of that was there. And so to me, I am also kind of worried. In my way, I'm worried about the industry. I want to hear now, just because we'll focus on this for a second, and we'll jump into the other areas you talked about. But how worried are you for the arts? The generative art that I've also been a part of for many years, actually. For the artists, yes, they can probably embrace this initially, but where do they go in 5 years' time? Are they going to be still producing things, do you think, or is it just going to be strictly AI?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I had a very interesting conversation about this recently when I was visiting one of the AI, big AI players that I can't name because we looked at stuff that is not released yet.
Sure.
And that was about music and the ability. So very similar as you said, you type in, I want a song that sounds like Sia, and I want this pop in this genre, and I want a bit more drums and a bit less of this, and it creates a number of songs that are all absolutely mind-blowingly good. So that is I feel that this technology will give us superpowers as humans. And that is the positive side. So if you are, for example, my daughter sings and she's a songwriter and she's super creative, and I believe that she can then, if she wanted to record her own songs, she can now do this with AI. So she can take her songs and put music on top of it. She can even add instruments to this, and the AI will almost create a song. And this is this cool creativity process that then takes place, which I'm super excited about. But there are downsides of it. So on the one hand, it democratizes it, and it can even be people that can't write songs and can't sing and can't play instruments. They can even create songs because I can go to Google Gemini, say, create me amazing lyrics about this topic, and then I can go to this tool and have it create a song for me, and then you fine tune it until you're happy. So this is good. Everyone has this new outlet that they can create things that they were never able to create before. There are downsides because people that before my daughter needed someone to play the guitar in the background and the drums, and they might not be needed, but possibly they will because what everyone craves is this human connection. So we still want to go to bars and clubs and concerts and see real artists. The other thing that really encouraged me is that this company I was talking to, they were talking to platforms like Spotify. And they were saying one of the biggest challenges they have at the moment is that there's too much music out there already, too much mediocre music. So for people to find good music is actually really hard. And actually, what makes someone create really great music is this edge that they have. Is this human spark, this creativity that brings something else that AI tools currently can't do. Because what generative AI tools do is they are amazingly good at creating content based on what they've learned from the training data. And what we want is we want to push the boundaries of this a little bit and create something different. And so for me, there will always be this, I hope that we will always have this opportunity to create, that people that are really creative and innovative, that they will flourish, that it will give them new tools to do things faster, quicker, better than ever before. But I think we as humans will always crave this really human touch, and we want someone that can actually sing for us in a concert or in a club, and there is a clear market for that. There will also be a market for music that we use on our as a background music for our YouTube videos. This can be synthetically created, and it's a really good idea. I was fascinated by a project where Mercedes-Benz was collaborating with will.i.am, and they launched this at CES this year, where they basically had a car that would generate a soundtrack to your driving based on how you're driving and where you are driving. And this would be automatically generated while you're driving, depending on your driving style and your emotions and where you are. So I think this is super interesting how it can transform this whole genre of what is music today. And I yeah, I think it's fascinating and
Yeah.
it's offering new opportunities for artists as well, that you get two camps at the moment. The people that almost license their content and their voice and saying, hey, play around with this. So one artist I talk about in the book is Grimes. And she basically said, okay, let's make my voice available and let people play around with my music and democratize it. And if they like my voice, they can use it and they can create their own songs. And then there are others that are suing these platforms saying you're infringing my copyright. So we need to be careful of obviously that these platforms only use voices and are trained on data that they actually have the rights to using it. But I think there's another opportunity for artists to license some of their content. And there are lots of challenges, but it's super fascinating to see how this is transforming the music industry.
Yeah, I think you're right on about the ability, especially at the end there, where artists, known artists, could actually leverage their name, their likeness, their voice, the look in the video side, film side, what they look like. All that for the known artists are going to thrive for the next
Mhm.
100 years, 1,000 years, whatever the case is. but the ones that are trying to break in, I think, can have a little more of a challenge going forward. At least that's my belief. So the other part that I was really interested about hearing from you is you mentioned something around the lines of the human interaction, being able to, go to a concert, see them. I've been talking about AR and VR for a long time. Talks that I would give would be around, hey, Apple's going to be coming out with something, and traditionally, though I'm not an Apple person, I respect what they do. I'm sure it's going to be something that's transformative. At least it'll get the eyes of people around the world because of what people think of Apple. And sure enough, the Vision Pro came out, and its first iteration, I've heard mixed reviews about it. In general, people are stunned by some of the things you can do. But where I want to go with you is in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years, when people have newer iterations of this, will there still need to be a time where people are actually visiting and going to places when the immersive experience, and I'm sure you've used these types of devices in the past, they are really realistic feeling. So much so that when you take them off, you're kind of dizzy. It's not from the device themselves, it's from the immersive aspect of that, if it's a higher end model. So my question to you is, do you see those in-person meetings and people going into the office as we're trying to get people back into the office, so to speak? Do you think that's actually going to go back down again once you have this? I can look at you over there, and you look like you're at the table, you're interacting. I can see your voice, I can hear your voice, I can see your emotions, I can see your eyes. Very realistic. What's the point of meeting the person in person?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And for me, in my book, I talk about the interaction of generative AI with other technologies, and this whole immersive, augmented virtual reality space is one of them, which I think will be completely transformed by generative AI. Because in the past, if someone said we need an office in the metaverse, you needed a game designer to help you design it. Now you can write a few prompts into an interface saying, hey, make me an office, make it look like this and this and this, and it will create it for you. So this
That's
will
amazing.
offer amazing opportunities. So in retail, it will enable us to try on clothes. This is something I'm really excited about because it doesn't require virtual reality in the midterm, because this is a big challenge that not enough people have those headsets and they're too expensive at the moment. But everyone has a smartphone. So you can scan your body using the smartphone, and this will then give you a realistic image of your size, for example, and you can then try on clothes. You can combine them. You can put these shoes with this suit or this bag with this dress, and you can then say, I'm buying this dress for a cocktail party, and generative AI can create the cocktail party around you, and you can see the virtual you wearing what you potentially want to buy in that setting. So this is something I'm super excited about. And
Amazing.
you talk about the so for me, this is a good example where the virtual experience could potentially be better than the real experience, because I can't have this in the dressing room in a shop. I can see myself in a mirror, but I can't see myself in that setting, and I can't fly around myself and see, do I look good from all angles, and so on. And I have tried out, similarly to you, some of those mixed reality headsets that are coming out soon. And this is mind blowing. So I tried them out, and because they can augment the space around you, they can probably make this experience even more entertaining and more interesting. So for me, combining some of this, I was lucky enough, I went to the opening of the ABBA Voyage. This is a new ABBA concert in London. So they
Ah,
purpose-built
yes.
a venue, and ABBA basically performs as avatars on stage.
How
And
was
this
it?
is and this for me was amazing. And watching my kids and my wife doesn't really like tech that much. She loves real live music. And halfway through the concert, she leaned over to me and said, "Hey, this is going to be blowing all future concerts out of the water, because it was so different, so immersive." And for me, if you then combine this with virtual reality, it will be amazing. So to answer your point, yes, it will make experiences amazing and potentially better in many ways. But I also think that currently they can't replicate all of the senses that we have. So when you go to a concert, you smell, you feel, you sense with all the different nerves that you have in your body. And that is something we can't replicate yet. And so I think there is still, in the medium term, this need to have this real experience for many of us. We will get closer. I was fortunate enough to wear a Tesla suit in a Formula One
Oh, wow.
race car simulator that had VR. I had a VR headset on, I had a Tesla suit on. I was in the simulator, and man, I felt like I was driving a race car because the Tesla suit was giving me the G-forces, the simulator was swinging around, and I have experienced something that I think I would never experience in the real world because I will never drive a Formula One car. And it felt pretty close. I'm sure the G-forces are even tougher in the real car. But it was a real experience. So this is something that we will get to at some point. We will have more sensors, but the time where everyone will have Tesla suits, and if we ever will get to that stage, and VR headsets and all this gear at home, I think this will take a really long time. Maybe at some point we can skip this and go to brain-computer interfaces that
Right.
can give us those experiences straight into our brain, but we are a long way away from that.
Okay, fair enough. No, I love those explanations, those perspectives. So from virtual reality to reality, just bring us back a little bit. Uh, when we start to see more and more generative video in the sense where people can use this for ill, um, and the concerns around that, right? So in politics, people running for president or people creating video just before an election, things like that. How do you think we should go about um, certifying that something is legitimate, is real, so that people aren't given a whole bunch of disinformation about something? And this could be anything, right? Because people can generate whatever they want, whenever they want. I've done this, been doing it for years. It used to take hours and hours and hours for something to process to create something that was on top of my face. Now, of course, you can do it in seconds.
Mm.
So as that's become democratized, where do we go with that? How do we certify stuff?
Yeah, this is a real challenge, and these tools are getting so good. I have my own avatar. I work with an AI company to digitize me and digitize my voice, so all I need to do is type in a bit of text, and it will create a video of me
Wait, is
saying
this
this
really
in my
you?
voice. Yeah, but you
Raise your
never
hand.
know.
With hand.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. I know we know.
Yeah. Um, And so that is super interesting, and the fact that we can now take little snippets of someone's voice, little snippets of someone's video, and or even a photograph, and turn this into video is frightening. And this is one element that I have serious concerns about. That I'm not sure the world is quite ready for this. I don't think people like you and me who've worked in this space for many, many years are aware of how competent these tools are getting and the threats that come with it. The vast majority of people still think if they know of generative AI, they think it's a chatbot. Um, so I think it's really important that we educate people that there's a um, and I don't think social media platforms are doing enough at the moment to stop some of this content going viral. And what we're seeing at the moment is this technology war that on the one hand side you have AI tools that come out that enable everyone to create these deep fakes in super easy ways. On the other side, on the other hand, we have AI tools that are being trained to detect fakes. And I don't think we are quite there yet. And so the problem is the tools are getting better and better. The detection tools are trying to catch up with all of this. I have not seen a really good detection tool that picks up everything. So for me, I also have concerns about how the world is going at the moment, that we seem
Yeah.
to be increasingly polarized in our political views. So it feeds into people's agenda. So if you see a tool of a particular politician saying something that you don't like, and this just confirms that this person is as bad as I thought, and you then share this on your social media, and this then gets shared around in your social media echo chamber, that for me has I have real concerns about all of this. And we've seen this in we're just starting with this technology, and we're seeing this already being used. So what we need is we need watermarking, but I don't
Yes.
think the technology is there yet. And obviously, if you use tools like ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Midjourney to create images and videos, as the public, they will watermark our content. It will stop us from doing stuff. But
So
people that want to use this technology, especially open source tools that they can then modify to create content that has absolutely zero watermarks on them, that is easily done as well. So, and if you think that some of these deep fakes and the danger and the damage that they can cause is in the interest of lots of governments to interfere in elections, there will be budgets to make sure that this technology is used for bad things. And
yeah,
so for me, the best thing we can do is educate people and actually create this critical thinking in people and this awareness that this technology is out there. And whenever people see any content online, be this a written article, an image, a video, that they really question themselves, where is this coming from? Can this actually be real? And this takes a bit of time. And so
yeah.
I think this is the best way forward.
So I totally agree with you on all of that in terms of just education in the short term for people to be aware of what to look at something with skepticism, right? My possible solution, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. We don't have a ton of time left, but um, is leveraging blockchain.
Mm,
And digital signatures.
mm,
So if the AP, Associated Press, or some other organization has produced something, they're digitally signing this such that if any tiny little piece, a pixel changes on that, it's no longer officially signed, so that you, with your eventual digital wallet, would be able to read whatever it is that you're reading, and you'll know that that is certified by X organization. Do you think that that's something that's feasible in the next several years?
Yeah, this is exactly in my book I talk about exactly that, and that blockchain technology could potentially be a solution that would allow us to verify content and authenticate content. Um, the challenge that blockchain technology is still in its infancy, as I see it, and there are lots of challenges with blockchain. So for me, one of the biggest challenges is the compute power that it needs. So to think that we could use blockchain technology to verify all the content that is online, that is, I don't think feasible. We don't have enough computing power available, and it would cause more damage than any good because we need so much computing resources, which then need energy, which then cause climate change and everything else. But
Mhm.
I hope that we will be clever enough as a human species to find ways to authenticate things. And maybe we will come up with better blockchain technology in the future that allows us to use it for everyday things like content verification.
A great point. I think on the old sort of Ethereum, which is the second biggest blockchain, they used to have proof of work, which
Mm,
did use tons of electricity. But now all the biggest blockchains, with the exception of Bitcoin, which is universally just one thing for the most part, that's currency, they've all switched to proof of stake,
mm,
which reduces the consumption of electricity by 99.5%.
mhm,
So hypothetically, you could start to move, and this is recent, you could start moving down that path towards being able to do exactly what we sort of just described. And I think the opportunity is immense. Again, very early days, which is something that we'll see. We'll see if it comes out or not. Uh, Last thing, since you've mentioned it a few times, like the metaverse and virtual reality and that space, tie that into blockchain. And do you think that there is any other bandwidth or any other specialty use cases that NFTs, those non-fungible tokens, will become besides some of these pieces of art, which are legitimate, and then there's tons of junk. But do you see those going forward into something else? Deeds to property, maybe deeds to your car, or proof of ownership of other things?
Yeah, I see huge potential for them. And I think blockchain technology in the metaverse all got crowded out by the mega hype around generative AI.
Did.
But I think this technology is still bubbling in the background and has potentially really important use cases. So I can, so for example, anything around data. I think if we think about personal health records, for example, at the moment, what happens is you go to a hospital, they will have some personal information about you. You go to your doctor, they will have personal information about you. And this is hugely sensitive information. You don't know how this is protected, what sort of security processes they have in place, um, how they make sure that this data is protected and not shared with anyone. In the future, I think you will have a digital wallet where you have this kind of information stored. And you can then give anyone access or retrieve access. So if you change doctor, if you go to a new hospital, you can give them access to this information. So this for me is a super important use case for NFT type technology. I was working with Glenfiddich, the whiskey maker from Scotland, and they, in the past, when they were selling their whiskies, they sold them in auctions as a physical bottle, and so they would have an initial idea of who bought this, but then let's say they produce a special edition of whiskeys and there are only 10 bottles in the world. Um, they will never know how many of them are left, right? What they now do is that they sell them as NFTs. So they
Yeah.
retain the 10 bottles in a warehouse in Singapore. They give people the digital certificate because when you are a collector, you don't really want to have all those bottles in your house anyway, because you usually they end up somewhere in a cupboard and you need to make sure no one smashes them or drinks them
That's right.
accidentally. And and then you get this little digital bottle that you can then share on social media saying, "Hey, I own this bottle." And what is interesting is that Glenfiddich now has an ability to have complete transparency about how many bottles there still are. Because if someone decides to drink it, you burn your NFT, you swap it for the real bottle, you can drink it. And now everyone that owns this bottle knows, hey, it's only nine around. It's now only
Oh
eight or
my
seven.
goodness.
And
It's
I now
amazing.
have the last bottle. And it also enables Glenfiddich to have a completely different relationship because when these NFTs get sold, they can still have the relationship with the new person who bought it.
That's
So there are huge benefits. And
definitely.
so
My
I
goodness.
think travel documents, deeds of houses, your medical records, and even many high value items that you buy, there will be NFT and blockchain technology linked to that.
Fantastic. My goodness. Well, we are almost out of time. Bernard, thank you so much for your time here with us today. Looking forward to just to recap. The book is called Generative AI in Practice 100 plus amazing ways generative artificial intelligence is changing businesses and society.